This is the stitch we'll be focusing on today, the double crochet. So for this tutorial, you'll need some yarn, and I always recommend using light colors, especially if you're a beginner, because it makes your stitches so much easier to spot. You're gonna need a hook. I'm using worsted weight yarn and a 5mm crochet hook, and you're just going to need to keep your scissors and your darning needle close by, because at the end of this video I'm going to show you how to weave in those ends so you can have a nice complete fabric like you can see over here, with no stitches peeking out. Yes, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need to make is a slip knot. You're going to need to make a slip knot, and I always recommend leaving a long tail about 6 to 7 inches before you make your slip knot, because you're going to need significant amount of length that you can weave right back into your project so it looks neat, clean, and doesn't come undone. So you can use the measurement from your wrist to the top of your middle finger, which is usually around 6 to 7 inches, to estimate that length. So that's around 6 to 7, and then we're going to make a slip knot. And the easiest method I use is to take the working end of your yarn and place it on top of the tail end like that. Insert your fingers and pull through that working end, and use the tail end to tighten it. And the working end of your yarn is used to adjust it. Right. Then you insert your hook and you have yourself a slip knot. Awesomeness. So from here we're going to make our foundation chain. You can chain as many stitches as you want for your width, but for this tutorial I'm going to make a chain of 15 stitches. So you just yarn over and pull through that loop, and you're going to do this 15 times. So you just want to make sure that your chains are well made, that there's been no twisting happening as you're crocheting, and that they are roughly the same size all the way through, the same tension as well. Now you're going to work in the second chain from your hook. The loop on your hook never counts as a stitch or a chain, it's just the loop on your hook. So the first chain from your hook is this one over here, and the second chain from your hook is this one over here, and that's where we're going to work our first stitch. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you're going to have 3 loops on your hook like that. You're going to yarn over, pull through 2 of them so that you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over once more and pull through both loops on your hook so that you have 1. And there you have it. You've made your first double crochet stitch. I usually like inserting my hook right between the chain right there, so that when you insert your hook and you look at it from the top, you have 2 loops on your hook like so. I usually like doing that so as to give my foundation row a nice firm beginning. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. That's the double crochet, and you're going to repeat the same pattern throughout the row. You've completed your row of double crochet stitches. Now let's pause here for a minute and just take a look at our work before we move on to the next row. If you turn your stitches towards you like that, you're going to notice these V's that are formed at the top of our stitches. Each one is a stitch. You see this V here corresponds to this double crochet, the V here to the next one, and the V here to the next one, and it helps you keep your work even because you can look at them and tell whether or not there are huge gaps between stitches or the stitches are tight. And don't worry if things don't look perfect yet, that's completely normal. It's part of the learning process. So give yourself time to learn, give yourself time to build the rhythm and the muscle memory as well. When we started off, we started with 15 chains and then we skipped 1. That means we have a total of 14 chains that we worked in. So we should have a total of 14 double crochets. So we count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those are 14 stitches. If you still find it a bit difficult to keep track of your stitches or to count them, the easiest thing I found to do is to use stitch markers. And use them to mark your first stitch right over there so that you don't miss it as you work your second row. And you can use this one to mark your last stitch right over there so that you know where to insert your hook for the second row. You don't really need stitch markers. You can also use pieces of contrasting yarn. You can use safety pins or anything else that would really grip the first and the last stitches. You can use those as your stitch markers. So for the second row, let me just remove this one over here. Chain 1 and turn your work like that. That chain 1, the one that we just made right over there, it doesn't count as your first stitch and it doesn't count as a stitch at all in the new row, but it simply gives you some height as you work the next row of stitches and helps create a cleaner, straighter edge. So we are going to continue making double crochets all the way across in each and every stitch across. So we've chained 1, we turn our work, and you remember we had put our stitch marker here right there to help us mark. So if you turn your work, you'll see that the stitch marker is right over there in that V. Because the chain 1 also forms a V, make sure you don't work a double crochet into that chain because it will make your work have more stitches than what is necessary. So you'll end up having a misshapen fabric. So there it is, you can see that space, it's attached to the double crochet that we made right there. So you're going to remove the marker. And as before, you yarn over, insert through that stitch, and you're going to see at the top that you have these 2 loops on your hook right there. Then you yarn over, pull through so that you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, through 2, and you have your first double crochet in the second row. Again, you yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, through 2, yarn over, through 2, like that. You see, as you move your stitches like that, you're going to see that there's a hole over here, and these holes, if you're not looking at the V's from the top, these holes are where you're going to insert your hook and work your double crochets into. And you're going to continue with that rhythm all through the row to the end. If you feel that I'm moving too fast or you'd like to jump to a particular section of the tutorial, I've attached timestamps in the description box below, so you can just scroll through to where you were when you left off or where you'd like most help and assistance with. And you continue with the rhythm already established until you get to the end of the row. And this is why the stitch marker helps, so that you know whether or not this is actually a stitch that you need to work into. So you're just going to remove that and look at it where it was. You see there's that V over here. That's where we're going to work our last double crochet stitch of the row. Yarn over, through 2, yarn over, through 2. And you can see how the piece looks, and it looks really lovely. And the chain 1 really helps us maintain a straight edge as we go along. So you'd want to chain 1 and continue working in each and every stitch across to the end of the row. And you're going to repeat the pattern throughout for however big you want your project to be or however much you want to practice. I'd recommend that you keep going for a few rows until you have a small square like I did right over here, because this is one of the best ways to practice and to build confidence, to just keep going over and over and over until you actually understand how it works and your hands get accustomed to the stitch and the movement and the rhythm of it. So again, we chain 1 and we turn. You want to make sure that you maintain the number of chains that you're chaining at the beginning of each of your rows It needs to be consistent throughout, and you also need to turn in the same direction throughout so that you can have a very nice consistent edge that is straight and neat and beautiful. So again, this is our first stitch right over here. You don't count the chain one, you go right to the stitch attached to this double crochet. So you yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, through two, yarn over, through two. Now when you get here, you're just going to want to take your scissors and snip off the yarn. Then from there, you're going to chain one and pull it through and tighten that stitch right there. And that's how you finish off your work. You're going to want to leave again another 6 to 7 inch tail that you'll use to weave into your work. Now to weave it in, you're just going to take your darning needle and thread that piece of yarn through, and you're going to want to turn to the back of your work. To identify the back of your work, this yarn tail that you started with at the beginning should always be on your left side. When it's on your left side, you're facing the right side. When it's on the right side, you're facing the wrong side. So you turn your work and you just want to insert that needle through the stitches, but in such a way that you're making sure it doesn't show on the right side of your work, just between stitches, like so, for a couple of stitches as you go along. And you're going to pull that through. Make sure you don't misshape the edge of your work. Then you're going to go in the opposite direction, but you're going to skip a stitch. Don't go directly where you came through, just skip a stitch or so. Then go back where you're from and pull through. And just to secure my work, I like doing this one more time, just going back like that, pulling the yarn through to make sure you don't misshape your work as you pull through. Then you're going to take your scissors and snip off that excess yarn, and that's how you weave in your ends. And as you weave them in, you remember to gently tug and stretch your fabric so that it doesn't pull tight. And that's it. You've learned the double crochet stitch.